All of us are on a journey, and sometimes we get stuck in life, and that might lead to a breakdown. A breakdown is usually about a loss of some kind. And if you slow down and learn from your breakdown, you will have a breakthrough. Pay attention to the pain and the lessons. I decided to create Women Empowering Women due to my own breakdown and breakthrough in 2012. In these episodes, women will share their personal stories, how they went from a breakdown to a breakthrough, and what they learned in the process. I hope you will tune in every Friday on NewYouTV, and I hope these stories will inspire you.
In today's episode of NewYouTV, we're going to be speaking with Karin Glannstam. Karin was born and raised in a small town in the south of Sweden. At an early age, she had an urge to travel and to see the world. She wanted to meet new people and learn about the different cultures. Karin eventually became a nurse and worked for 6 years in a hospital. However, she felt that wasn't quite her calling. Karin also felt that Sweden was too small, so she wanted something more. So she went to explore the world. In 1987, she took a year off and left for the U.S. She lived in Atlanta, Georgia for 10 months, and that is where she met her ex-husband. They married in 1988 and then moved to Houston. That marriage lasted for 16 years, but it never was a good marriage and ended up in divorce in 2004. Karin got involved in a relationship immediately, and this relationship brought her to her knees in 2012. She had to return to Sweden after living in the United States for almost 25 years. And here is Karin's story. So Karin, I was listening to your bio, and you had a couple
what's up with all these men?
Yeah, I mean, what is it? You know, got a couple of these guys that are just, I don't know what to say about them, but
Emotionally unavailable.
Emotionally unavailable. So what do you think attracted you to these guys? Or attracted them to you, or whatever?
My father.
Oh.
Well, you know how they say we always go back. When there's something going on in our adult life, we have to go back to our childhood. And that's what happened in 2012 when I had my breakdown, and I had to go through my life to learn and able to get the breakthrough to understand what was going on. I had to kind of follow the red thread, and I was like, I'm repeating a pattern here, and I didn't understand it at the time, but I had to go back and look at my childhood, and I knew that was something up with my father, and of course when I started looking, yes, it was.
Oh, so after you had your breakthrough or your breakdown, actually,
both.
you just kind of had to, like you said, you know, just kind of trace back to the pattern, and
you have to backtrack.
Yeah, kind of say, well, where did this start, and why?
Exactly.
Why me? Why am I?
And you have to be willing to learn, because sometimes the details and the information, it's not that easy to handle, and it's kind of sad a lot of times, but it makes you a lot wiser. It's like Miss Oprah said, Miss Oprah is a fan of mine, to turn your wounds into wisdom. And you have to be willing to look at yourself and everything. And a lot of times it hurts. You open old wounds, but when you come out on the other side, you'll be so much better off for the rest of your life. But what I did find out, that my father was a emotionally unavailable man. He never cared for me. It's like they said, you never had a father. He was there physically, but he was never there.
So he was there like emotionally. He wasn't available emotionally.
Yeah, he was there, but he never cared for me, and he never, paid attention to me. He really didn't, I guess, like me. I'm sure he did, but he never
liked you. But was his family that way? I mean, was his childhood that way?
Looking back on my grandfather, yes, and his grandfather was his father then was an alcoholic and a womanizer and all that stuff, and my daddy was a perfectionist and a very high achiever. There goes show you, yes. And but he had a problem with alcohol. I mean, yes, he was an alcoholic, and also he was emotionally abusive to my mother, and also financially abusive to her. So there were things that got stuck in my subconscious that I saw and heard, and a lot of that I don't even remember, but I do remember some. So when I left and went to the States in 87, and I met my husband, and we got married in 88. I probably really didn't know what I was doing, and love makes you do stupid things.
And when you're young, you don't think about that either,
No.
So, and you're not looking at the red flags either. So even though the red flags might have been there,
like you said, love makes you do stupid things.
Yes,
love makes you blind. So,
but
yeah.
he, you know, and in the beginning everything was good, but I realized quickly that it was a mistake. He was also an alcoholic, and
so you were just repeating the pattern.
yeah, I was repeating the pattern and emotionally unavailable.
Yeah.
And it just, but you stick around, you tolerate, you hang
because
in,
you think
wait
you want
too long.
to
Oh, it's
try
going
to
to
make
get better
it
tomorrow.
Yeah,
And oh, it's going to get better, you know, in a couple of days, or and it can't be true that it is like this, and you hang in. And I didn't have a real relationship to compare to because I never had one with my father.
Right.
So anyway, that marriage lasted for 16 years. I hung in way too long, tolerated way too much stuff, and people say, well, why didn't you leave? Well, I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to go back to Sweden, and it wasn't like it was that great, but it's kind of like they say, you learn to become functional in the dysfunction.
Yeah, that's true. And it's kind of like, what is the lesser of the two evils, you know?
Yes.
So go back to Sweden, back to your old life, which was okay, but then you felt like being hungry in the States.
I did like the States, and I enjoyed it here, and I didn't want to go back to Sweden. And that was one of the reasons I hung in. We didn't have any kids, so that was good in a way. It made it easier to leave when I was ready to leave. But what filed for divorce, and it was over in 2004. It was finalized, but then I made a mistake of going straight into another relationship.
Oh, so basically kind of like a rebound relationship, sort of? Or...
Yeah, I guess that sounds really bad, but I guess maybe I can say...
Well, you know, a lot of us do that.
I don't think I think of it like that, but he was the opposite of my ex. He paid a lot of attention to me, and he listened, and what I was talking about was important, and he did everything that my ex wouldn't do. He treated me really nicely. He was kind and considerate, very generous with me and my friends. And at the time, we were living in the hill country in Marble Falls outside Austin.
Oh, okay.
And I had my store, apparel store, and he was very nice to the people that I was working for me, and just very kind and considerate to most people, and he was very much the opposite. So I just thought, oh my gosh, I just found the perfect match.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you know, but there were some little red flags.
So you saw some red flags and stuff.
Looking back on it.
Yeah,
yes,
but then I guess at that time too, you might have noticed them before that, but then you were just, well, you know, maybe that's just my subconscious, maybe I don't really see these kind of things.
Well, we always don't trust our intuition. That's probably one of the things that I will tell everybody is like, trust your gut feeling.
So trust your gut feeling,
steer you wrong. Yeah, absolutely. I probably at the time, looking back, I didn't know what the gut feeling was. And I just, you know, and I tolerated a lot because I've been through a marriage. I saw my mother tolerate a lot, and I was just, you know, I was conditioned from birth.
Yeah, that's true, because you saw it in your childhood,
yes, absolutely.
And you lived it,
So anyway, so it kept going, and it got worse. We moved to Houston, and things changed right away, and he became a totally different person.
So you mean from the time you left Austin to the time you moved to Houston, it just like a switch came on, and he was a totally different person?
Yeah, this was so scary. I had seen things happen when we were planning on coming down to Houston, but I was so busy.
Yeah. Just planning and trying to do the
selling
move.
Houses. We had 2 houses we had to sell. There was a lot going on, and so I just didn't want to. We didn't want to look at it. I didn't have time to look at it.
Yeah.
And so I just let it slide and let it slide. But yeah, it got worse and worse. And once we came down to Houston, I'll say that when the guys that moved us, the moving guys, when they left with a big old truck, my partner, he left too. It was like he was nowhere to be found.
So then he became emotionally unavailable also, or?
Well, he started a little bit, but he drastically changed overnight. He wouldn't even talk to me. He'd go and sit by the pool and read a book. He wouldn't talk. He didn't want, we were planning on, we had remodels in the house. They were working, and he didn't like that. He didn't want to do anything that we had talked about doing.
Totally flipped?
He totally flipped. That's a good expression.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty shocking. And I thought he got depressed. And of course, he's quite a bit older than I was.
Yeah,
and
so naturally you
retired.
thought that maybe something
Yes,
with
depression.
being a little older, and then,
No doubt.
then the move maybe kind of depressed him a little bit.
Oh yeah, I mean it's hard to move, and
Yeah,
it was a big
it is.
move.
And especially, you know, you thinking, okay, he's an older person, the move is probably hard on him.
Oh, absolutely, it was hard on me.
Yeah, so.
But I was excited, and he didn't
Yeah.
have any excitement. But I thought depression, and this was going on for a while. And in the meantime, I was starting to feel so much worse about myself. And there was nothing he didn't say. He didn't call me any bad names. He didn't say anything. He just kind of just.
He withdrew from you.
Absolutely.
So I can see that. I mean, because you're thinking, if I have a partner that's spending all this time with me, and then all of a sudden, at the drop of a hat, he isn't, and of course, yeah, I would too. I would think something was wrong with me. Okay, what did I say? What did I do?
Oh yeah,
did I make him mad? You know. So how long did this go on then?
Well, he went on for months and months, and we're in, I think, in 2010 at this time. And the thing that bothered me is like I started feeling so bad, and I don't know why. It just got worse and worse and worse. And finally, I think it was in April or May, I couldn't take it anymore. So I just found a therapist and called her, and I got to go in and see her. And he actually went with me twice, which I was surprised, but then he refused to go with me because he knew more than a therapist.
Oh, so he thought he knew more than a therapist.
Yeah,
so
he said that was not.
Figured he wasn't going to go anymore. So.
No. So on the third visit there, she told me that she felt that he had narcissistic traits.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know much about narcissism, but I Googled it, and I was floored. Everything was correct, and it's a very bad, diagnosed, and it's like you just got to get away from this person. So
yeah, then
it just deteriorated and deteriorated.
Yeah.
At the same time, my mother in Sweden were also getting worse. So I'm dealing with a very severe person that was actually an abusive person, controlling, starting to be financially and psychologically abusive, and then my mother was older.
Yeah, so you were going through all this at the same time.
At the same time, and it just, my life
kind
just
of compiled on.
was starting to spin out of control.
So then what happened in 2012? I mean, so this all kind of like led up to what happened in 2012.
And I had very little support here in the States. I had two friends that I've known for a long time, and they were very helpful. And my biggest supporter was in Sweden. So it was really easy for him to control me and do all the things. But
because you didn't have any support here, not anybody that could just...
And so I continued to go to see the therapist because that was my reality check, my sanity there. So finally, in the end of 2011, in December, my mother passed away.
Oh,
and then everything just went crazy.
Crashing down on you.
My friend in Sweden, I've been home for the funeral and all of that, and my ex-partner, he didn't care that she had died. He didn't care about the
So
funeral.
He was very unemotional.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the biggest sign of a narcissist is no empathy.
So did you end up moving back to Sweden?
Well,
or what did you do?
My friend Ingela in Sweden said, you got to get out of here. And I had two dogs too. And I said, how am I going to do that? It's so overwhelming when you look at that. I lived here for 25 years.
Yeah.
But it just got to be so bad that finally, and it just, when I got back from, the funeral for my mother and got back to the States, I can't do this anymore. And it was just a decision that it's time to leave.
Yeah.
So I got my dogs prepped to go, and I just had to leave my life of 25 years behind, and that was no easy task.
Oh yeah, I mean, you had to go and just start all over again. I mean, just basically leaving your whole life.
It sounds easy, but it wasn't. And then I had to ship two dogs, and it's not an easy task. And I had to do it in secrecy because I was afraid what he was going to do.
Yeah. So you were living in fear at the same time of going through all this.
Talking about it now, it was very scary, and there were guns involved, and he had placed guns over the house.
So he was just trying to play mind games with you, basically.
Oh, he was the whole time.
Is that a trait of narcissism?
Oh, absolutely.
When they play games with
brainwashing. Oh, yeah. So I had to secretly plan to get out of the country and to get my dogs out in my two suitcases. And I did have some help from my friends and also my veterinarian. She understood something was wrong. So we had to keep it secret, and I had to walk away when he didn't know. I did get out, and my dogs and I made it to Sweden. And the reason I went to Sweden is I would have a better support system in Sweden.
Yeah, I mean, you got, your friends
and I had a place to stay.
Well, yeah, and you had the place to stay.
I had a place to stay, so I needed to get away. to get away from all the drama and trauma, and so I can just relax and
focus on you,
focus on me, because I needed some healing after all these years. And as I got to Sweden, like I said, we made it safe and sound, but that's when it got worse, because I had full-blown PTSD.
Oh, so
I've
you
been
had the PTSD. So
I've just been on guard the whole time. Yeah, because I've been in a war zone when I was with him.
Yeah.
And so I did it. I couldn't sleep at night, and I mean, if I slept an hour or two, that was it. And this went on for months and months and months. And
so what did you do to help that? I mean, did you?
Well, I'm not a big believer in pills and antidepressants, and neither are the sweet. So I decided that I was going at it without it. And I've heard about the dark night of the soul, that you just have to sit through the pain. And I've studied so much before I came to Sweden about what was going to happen. So I was prepared, but I wasn't prepared for how painful it was going to be.
Yeah. So I mean, you kind of had an idea, but
absolutely.
But when you actually experienced it, it was something totally different.
10 times worse.
Yeah.
It was absolutely excruciating pain, and it was emotional pain. But what I did seek help right away. The first week when I got to Sweden, I had to leave my therapist in the States, so I needed someone else to talk to. So the first I found two coaches that I worked with, and because you can't go at it alone, it just can't.
No, I mean, that's just too much for anybody to go through.
And then my friend Ingela, of course, was helping me a lot, but I knew it was too much for her to handle too. This was
and she wasn't.
I was in bad shape.
Experienced, and then that wasn't a profession of hers, so she did the best she could.
As a friend, but I say I was on life support, not physically, but
emotionally and mentally. Yeah.
But I just realized that I had to take responsibility for what had led up to my action. Yes, these people were bad, but there was a reason why I stayed and why I put up with it.
Yeah.
And and that's when I started going back through my life. So I was studying all the time. I couldn't sleep anyway. I was on the internet finding out information about narcissism at the same time as I was also studying positive psychology and listening to Oprah and Deepak Chopra and Eckhart Tolle.
Just trying to get the good inspiration, the positive inspiration.
Just information.
Right.
And I was like, I got to help myself here, because no one else can do this work for me.
Yeah, you have to do the work yourself.
Absolutely.
I mean, you absolutely do.
But you need mentors. You need people to guide you. And of course, I talked to two different people that were also helping me. And so pretty quickly, I realized when I got to Sweden after a while that I accepted that I was here. You have to accept where you are right now and don't fight it.
Accept where you are in your life at that moment.
But this is where I am right now, and you take responsibility. This is the reason why I landed here. And then you can start planning what you want to do. And I came up with a big vision after a while. I was like, I was going to go back to the United States, and I was going to become a life coach.
And use your experiences, and then
exactly
you can help other people.
And that's what I felt like. The reason this has happened to me is because I had to help other women. And the reason I say that, because I had a little experience in 2010. Can I tell you real quick about that?
Sure.
Yeah. And it was in the middle of this turmoil. I just realized that he's diagnosed of the narcissism, and he was absolutely crazy. And we lived in a 2-story house, and I was upstairs. And it was in the afternoon, and all of a sudden it was very quiet, and I was up there, and all of a sudden I hear a voice saying to me, "You have to help women." And he was very
So it's saying you have to help women.
Yeah, and I was like, and it was so funny, and I answered back, and I was puzzled. I said, well, you know what? I can't even help myself.
So you knew that was your calling.
So, and I was thinking about, not at the time, I didn't. I just thought, well, I have to help women. But of course, I've always had an interest in psychology, and I've been a nurse, and I've been in retail, ladies apparel, and I always dealt with the women. But I always drawn to psychology and Dr. Phil and Dr. Drew, all these shows, and I just find it very intriguing, and the brain and your subconscious, and of course, then what happened to me. So, but I couldn't let go of that voice, and so, but I didn't realize, but then I started thinking, and this was almost 3 years ago now, that, well, I can become a life coach. I go back to the States, I can educate myself to become a certified life coach, and that way I can help women that end up in situations like what I did, when they're having a breakdown, help them to understand what's going on so they can also get to a breakthrough. You know, breakdowns are usually about a loss. It's a loss of some kind of a person, a job,
Right.
or you moving, or
Right.
kids going, to school and leaving your house.
Right.
And
So it's more than just one thing. It
absolutely.
It could be several things that you could consider a loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, I had 3 things at the time. I lost my mother, and I lost my partner, had to walk away, and I also
lost your home for 25 years.
So it was.
So you were getting a
massive
triple
undertaking.
whammy.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I worked day and night at it, and I said, I set this big vision for myself, and I think it's very crucial that you find some kind of future. It's like they say, you have to create a compelling future. It's kind of like they say in the Bible, without a vision, people will perish.
Yes, that's true.
And I think so a lot of times people have a hard time in the middle of things, a breakdown, to even see that there will be some kind of future beyond that.
Sort of like, I guess, what they say, the light at the end of the tunnel?
Yes.
Is that kind of like the same?
Yeah, because it's such a massive undertaking to go through the dark night of the soul, and you never think you're going to get out of it, or the dark tunnel, and that there ever be a future for you. But you are ultimately responsible to create it for yourself. So I created this big vision for myself, and the minute I started feeling better. I said, okay, I'm going to do this.
Because you started taking action.
I started taking action.
You didn't just sit there and wallow in your self-pity. You actually took some kind of action.
And mentally, too, and physically.
Yeah, you needed that mentally to just push yourself and push yourself out of that dark tunnel and push yourself forward, because you could see the light. And
I knew it was there. I just didn't know how I was going to get there.
Right, but you just had to push yourself to the top.
And I knew that physically I had to be fit, so I was always out walking with my doggies, and my doggies were just perfect, for that. Always out walking, exercising, eating right, and just working my mind all the time. And I had made a decision that I was going to return to the United States within a year after I come to Sweden.
So you had already set your goal. That was what you were going to do.
And a time frame on it. Mm-hmm. And then I was going to sign up for a course, a 1-year course to become a certified life coach.
Oh, okay.
So those were my two big goals. And so I had to become physically fit and mentally fit to be able to do all, because that's a massive undertaking.
Oh, yes.
And I really didn't know how I was going to do it. But as they say, once you do a little piece at a time, somebody appears and they help you, and you get the information, and you keep
someone else
going.
comes in. I mean, that's true.
Yeah,
I mean, it just seems like you're walking along this path, and then someone else comes here and helps, and then someone else and something else. So it's just kind of like falls into place, kind of like a puzzle, It
is. But you have to be willing to be out in the unknown, and I've been hanging out there for a long time.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's scary, and the fear factor is way high, and it was scary to go back to the United States, as it was scary to come to the States. But I had to give up everything. Most of the things that I owned were gone. It was gone. And
so you had a clean slate, fresh, clean slate, and then
except for me and my doggies.
And you had to put something positive on that clean slate, because you had so much negativity in your whole life. You just had to take that slate and just say, I'm going to make positive.
I didn't want that negative energy on that old stuff.
You had to put that positive energy on that slate.
So anyway, after a year in Sweden, I put up everything I owned again for sale, and got rid of everything, and I returned to the United States exactly a year and 15 days after I came.
That's amazing.
I know.
That's amazing.
So I returned to Houston, where I still am.
Where you were previously.
Houston,
okay.
Yeah. And 15 days after I arrived here, I started my 1-year online class to become a certified life coach, and a year after that I did graduate.
Oh, congratulations.
And
that's amazing.
I know, and that's how I created my company, NewYou.
That's fantastic.
So out of all that misery and all that stuff, that's how my coaching was born.
That's amazing, because you took a negative life experience.
Exactly.
And then you turn it into something positive, and not only positive for yourself, but positive for the women, because then you can help them when they're going through their dark night of the soul.
Oh, yes.
You can give them the tools to help get them through their tunnel. That's amazing.
I know. So almost 5 years after, you have to help women, and I couldn't understand. I said, I don't think I can do that. And now I look at that like, oh yeah.
That was your turning point. That was your message to say, this is your destiny, Karin. This is what you have to do.
So it's great, and so here I am, and just enjoying life, and I learned a lot, and forgiveness is huge. upset or anything. I let it go because these people, they've been wounded in their past. You know, what they were doing to me, someone already had done to them.
Yeah, so they were just taking you out on.
They were just acting out of their woods. I just happened to be the person that got in the way. And it's a good thing because I had to heal some of my own wounds. And my biggest takeaway is that I had to learn to love myself and accept myself. And I think a lot of women
have that problem.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't love themselves enough, and then they
I know.
end up
So
being in the
that
same
was
situation.
my biggest lesson also, that I have value.
Right.
Because I didn't feel like I had value, and I was settling for the breadcrumbs, or instead of wanting the whole cake, I just settled for the breadcrumbs, and I just didn't think that I was worthy of anything more than that. So, and that's my biggest lesson, and I think I'm gonna have, probably have to work on that for the rest of my life because it's still being there. But
I mean, it's a work in progress.
Always a work in progress.
Always.
Absolutely.
Well,
so, my biggest lesson came from my second, my partner. We were never married, and yes, he was really bad. And you ask maybe like, well, you wish it wouldn't happen to you. Not really, because
who you are.
And I learned so much.
Yeah. And then with that, like I said before, with your experience, that gives you the ability to help other women that are going through all this experience. And you can say, hey, I've been in your shoes.
Yeah.
I know
exactly how it feels.
So,
but this is what you can do about it.
Right. Excellent. Well, thanks so much.
So
appreciate that. And now, if someone wanted to contact you and get some additional tips and information, how would they contact you?
Well, they just can go to my website, and there's newsletters, there's blogs, there are coaching tips, YouTube videos.
That's a lot of good, useful information.
There's a lot of free stuff, and you can also, if you have any questions, you can just go to the website and send me a question, and I'll be glad to answer it. And like I said, I do one-on-one coaching. So if anybody needs any, just go to my website, and we'll post the information. And so that's about just I just say that be very courageous. It takes a lot of courage.
Well, you definitely had a lot of courage to do
it. Yes, and we're not going to die, and don't settle. I think that will probably be never settle. Because there is a better life, even if you can't see it, because you kind of learn to be functional in the dysfunction, and you can't see it because it just kind of messes with your head, and it gets foggy, and you can't see straight, you can't think straight. But
so take action
and get help. You can't do it alone.
So take action, get help.
Yeah, you definitely have to take action. You can't just think it, but get help, because sometimes when you're in the middle of this, that you can't see a future, you can't even think of what a vision would look like. And it's very important that you do, because that vision will pull you forward. It's like a magnet. It'll pull you forward, and things will appear on your path as you go. So
that's excellent.
Just got to take action.
Take action, make it happen.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for watching, and as Karin said, visit her website where she's got her blogs, newsletters, and videos, and any other helpful information that you think you may need from Karin. Feel free to give her a call or contact her.
Absolutely, yeah, anything. I mean, you got a question about narcissism or alcoholism, anything, creating a vision. I mean, hey, anything, just, pop me a question, or I'd be glad to get back to you on that. Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds great. Well, it's great talking to you. Thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. And tune in every Friday for a new episode of Women Empowering Women, where we'll have stories of women that are going through situations and have their breakdown and their breakthrough, and they're going to share their stories with us. So make sure you tune in every Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.